Continuing with Week 5 of the Phoenix Festival Tournament, we have another 8 matches to go over. 4 matches in the secondary bracket of the singles category, and 4 more matches in the doubles category. As always, use the link in the description below to go and vote for who you think would win in each match and give your reasoning as to why. Now, in our first match of the singles category, we have Clover Ebby versus Weiss Schnee in the Geyser and Lava biomes. Now let's see if Weiss can follow in her sister's footsteps and defeat Clover as well. Clover, with his good fortune and Kingfisher, is going to be a lot to deal with for Weiss, as he has quite a bit more experience being the leader of the Ace Ops. But Weiss in the Lava and Geyser biomes does have a lot to work with. The fire dust of the Lava biome, as well as the geysers that she could manipulate the water by freezing it with ice dust, or using fire dust to create steam and, use the freezer burn technique. So there's a lot that she could use to her advantage, including using her glyphs and possibly being able to get off some summons if she can use a smokescreen of sorts. So it would be a lot for Clover to keep up with as well, but his experience and his good fortune could be a great asset in this match. This one I could see going either way. Clover definitely has more skill, and if he's able to restrain Weiss, he could definitely win, but if Weiss is able to get off quite a few dust shots on Clover, she could win as well. So let me know your thoughts on this one through the voting. And then in our second match, we have the Battle of Bumblebee, Blake Belladonna versus Yang Xiaolong in the Savannah and Lava biomes. 2 characters that know each other's abilities very well, so it would be difficult for either to get the jump on one another. Blake is definitely the more agile of the 2 of them, being able to use her semblance to give herself a boost in momentum, creating her shadow clones, and if she adds dust to either of them, that could trip Yang up in a couple of ways, but Yang knows this and might be a little bit more cautious about rushing forward. Yang is quite maneuverable as well, able to use her gauntlets to launch herself around the battlefield, and the remote detonation function she has in her gauntlets as of the beginning of Volume 7 could give her a few added assets as well. This match I don't think would happen very quickly, as both would be able to anticipate one another's moves, be able to land hits against one another. I think that Yang would be able to overpower Blake, but I could easily see Blake winning as well. The Savannah biome and Lava biome doesn't really offer that much cover, and one of them could get tricky with the fire dust, so the environment could definitely play a factor as to who wins as well. Now, the more hits that Blake lands against Yang, the stronger she will get when she finally activates her semblance of burn, so I do think that Yang would have the advantage overall, but Blake can definitely put up a pretty solid fight. But I'll wait to see what you guys think as well. And then in our third match, we have another pair that know each other quite well. We have Mercury Black versus Emerald Sustrai in the Desert and Geyser biomes. Now, even though they do know each other well, and Mercury might be able to anticipate some of the illusions that Emerald comes up with, he still has to be able to locate her through those hallucinations. Now, he would be able to anticipate a number of Emerald's attacks if she would try to attack from behind, or what strategy she would try to employ, not to mention if she used perhaps the Geyser biome to her advantage, creating a hallucination of the geyser not being there or being ready to explode, and possibly Mercury might step over it or something like that. She may be able to get tricky with the biomes, but I don't really think they would be that much of a factor in the fight. Regardless though, when it comes down to a test of skill and combat, I think Mercury would have the advantage over Emerald, but Emerald's semblance is very useful, very tricky, so that would easily put her on par or possibly give her the advantage to beat Mercury. This would be a fight I'd be really curious to see. We got hints of their conflict in Volume 6, but not really anything past that. We'll see what happens when they actually get to Vacuo, because they are technically on opposite sides now, though Mercury doesn't really seem that convinced to be still on Salem's side, knowing that the world's just going to be destroyed afterwards, so we'll see if this fight actually happens, but for now, I'll leave it up to you guys to decide. And then in our fourth match of the singles category, we have Cinder Fall versus Nora Valkyrie in the Urban and Ocean biomes. And in this fight, I think Cinder has the pretty clear advantage here. She could use the ocean biome and her semblance of Scorching Caress to create a smokescreen and attack Nora from behind there. Now, if Nora can land a hit against Cinder, she would be able to deal a lot of damage, and I don't think Cinder would be able to take too many of those. But Cinder is definitely the faster fighter. Nora does have the Witch's Broom function of her Magnhild and be able to maneuver around the battlefield probably quicker than Cinder can, but when it comes to close combat, Cinder, with her dual-wielding blades, would be able to land more hits against Nora than Nora would be able to land against Cinder, though if Nora slams the ground using the lightning dust in her hammer, she could gain enough strength, create a shockwave, launch Cinder backwards, and prevent her from getting that close or dealing too many consecutive hits at certain points within the battle. but Cinder also has her arrows that she can charge up with her Scorching Caress and create explosions with them. So I do think that Nora is at a disadvantage in this fight, but she would definitely give Cinder a lot of trouble with the amount of strength that she has, and make Cinder a little bit more cautious to attack her. But we'll see how things go with the voting. And then we get to the doubles category. In our first match, we have Glinda and Winter versus Tyrion and Velvet in the Geyser and Ice biomes. Glinda and Winter, powerhouse team, as we found out in the first round, both of them working together, Glinda and her telekinesis, Winter and her versatility with all of the glyphs that she has, as well as the summoning, now up against Tyrion and Velvet. Tyrion being one of the most skilled characters in RWBY, and Velvet being one of the most versatile, being able to select any weapon that she needs for the given situation. Now, Velvet is not as experienced as every other character in this fight, but backing up Tyrion, being able to choose any weapon that is needed, long range or close range, would give quite a benefit against them. Now, Tyrion is definitely skilled enough to take on either Winter or Glinda. If it came down to a 2v1 fight against Tyrion, I think Glinda and Winter would be able to take him, though we saw how well Tyrion was able to manage against Crow and Clover at the same time, not to mention fighting against Crow, Clover, and Robin, so Tyrion might be able to take that as well. Velvet, I think, would probably be targeted by Glinda and Winter first, and if Tyrion isn't defending her that much, we know how well he was able to work alongside Crow when they teamed up against Clover, so Tyrion's definitely open to working with allies momentarily. I think he would be able to back Velvet up, and this would definitely be, in my opinion, a pretty close fight. I'm not exactly sure who would win. If Tyrion's able to get close to Glinda, he would be able to take her out without too much difficulty, and similarly with Winter. Both of them are more long-range fighters, though Winter, with her time dilation, can definitely get up close and deal a lot of damage, so, you know, let me know what you guys think on this one. It's a really interesting fight, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the matches in the future, regardless of which team wins here. And then in our second match, we have two pairs of characters that work extremely well with one another. We have Ironwood and Clover versus Coco and Fox. They are fighting in the Mountain and Savannah biomes. I don't really think the biomes themselves would give that much of an advantage to either combatant, but with the way that these characters work well together, this would be a very interesting match. Ironwood likes to fight from long range, and so does Coco. I don't really know how well Clover's good fortune would affect their team against Coco and Fox, because Coco with the Gatling gun, well, when bullets are spraying everywhere, the probability of you getting hit by at least a couple of them is pretty high. I don't really think Clover's good fortune would affect that much. Not to mention, Fox is a pretty fast fighter himself. He would be able to rush in, probably get close to Clover, and be able to clash against him, while Coco keeps Ironwood at bay. Ironwood would be using his due process to launch himself around the battlefields, try to get close to Fox and Coco, land hits against them, and if Ironwood did get close range to Coco, he would be able to land a couple hits against her, but Coco is definitely strong in her own right. She could last at least a short while against Ironwood close combat, and Ironwood wouldn't be able to finish her that quickly. So this fight, although there is a lot of experience on Ironwood and Clover's team compared to Coco and Fox, I think would be a lot closer than what would be anticipated at first glance. Coco and Fox do very well at supporting one another, and both are highly combative and will attack on their own. Whereas Ironwood and Clover, between the two of them, it seems like Clover would be the more support, while Ironwood would take the lead, being the main damage dealer, as Clover's weapon, as we've stated many times, isn't really known for dealing that much damage. He would be able to restrain opponents and land a couple lucky hits, but he wouldn't be dealing that much damage. So I think Coco and Fox have a real chance here to take out Ironwood and Clover, but they would have to overcome a mountain of experience between the two, so it would be an interesting match nonetheless. And then in our third match, we have Blake Belladonna and Emerald Sustrai versus Maria Calavera and Weiss Schnee. They are fighting in the anti-gravity and desert biomes. As we established, both of these teams are really strong and work really well alongside one another. Maria being the main damage dealer and extremely skilled on her own right, and Weiss being one of the best support characters, make for an extremely strong combination. But with Blake and Emerald's semblances being very complementary to one another, Blake making shadow clones, Emerald being able to create hallucinations, multiply all of the different clones, allow for a number of different surprise attacks, especially if Blake uses her dust, creates clones that would end up exploding or dealing damage to opponents when they can't actually see them thanks to Emerald's hallucinations. This would be a very interesting match. Yes, they are fighting in the anti-gravity biome, something that Maria and Weiss would probably have a bit of an advantage in, Weiss being able to create her glyphs to, well, hold Maria and Weiss in place so that neither of them get affected by the gravity biome, but with Blake and Emerald using the hallucinations to their advantage, they may be able to keep Maria occupied and take Weiss out of the match first, making it a 2v1 and might be able to take on Maria. Again, Maria against Blake and Emerald, there is quite a skill gap between Maria and each of them, so this would be an interesting fight to see. I think it could go either way, in all honesty, so I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys think of this one. And then in our last match of the day, we have Crow Bronwyn and Marrow Aemon versus Raven Bronwyn and Jean Arc. They are fighting in the Savannah and Anti-Gravity biomes. We actually saw Crow and Raven face off against one another in an exhibition match in last year's tournament, and it was Crow that came out the victor. But now that each of them have another character supporting them, how would things turn out differently? And honestly, this match could easily go either way. Yes, there's Marrow with his semblance being able to cause his opponents to stay in place, but the thing about Marrow's semblance that we don't have confirmation on is I think he needs to have direct line of sight to the opponents that he is trying to stop. So if his opponents, say Jean for example, throws up that shield equipment that he got in Volume 8 and creates that hard light dust barrier, would that prevent Marrow from causing them to stay in place? Yes, it's hard light dust and Marrow could see through it, but if Raven uses her ice dust to freeze the inside of it so Marrow can't, that could prevent him from being able to cause them to stay in place right at the beginning of battle. Not to mention, Raven fighting against Crow, well, her semblance is now certainly a factor in this fight. She can create portals to Crow and allow Jean to go through them, or Raven herself could go through them, attack Crow, and easily land hits against them. We saw in Volume 6, when Raven created that portal, Cinder was able to throw a fireball through the portal. So Raven could easily throw dust attacks through that. Jean could jump through, use his shield to launch a gravity attack at Crow, throw his balance off when he's fighting against Raven, and then Jean could jump back through the portal, escaping Crow's counterattack, and this could be a very dynamic battle, and especially as people mentioned before, with Raven being the leader of the Bronwyn tribe and Jean being one of the best tacticians, both of them have a lot of strategy on their side, so they could easily pull out the win against Crow and Marrow. I could see it happening, but again, Crow and Marrow, a lot of skill on that team, Crow being one of the best huntsmen in the RWBY series, and Marrow being one of the Aesops, especially with his very tricky semblance of being able to stop opponents' momentum. I could easily see them winning the fight as well. This one is extremely close, so please, out of all of them, let me know your thoughts on it in the voting and especially in the comments down below, because I really want to see what people think of it. They are fighting in the anti-gravity biome, so that could add an aspect of random chance if the gravity biome shifts at a specific time. That's of course assuming they're not fighting center stage or in the Savannah biome, so there'd be a lot happening in this fight. Both Jean and Raven jumping through portals to attack Crow or escape Marrow's semblance, because that's another thing. Could Raven create a portal, block Marrow's vision, and prevent him from using his semblance? Or could she create a portal to Crow, pull Jean through the portal and out of Marrow's semblance, and, prevent Marrow from using his semblance in that way? Marrow could only use his semblance so many times as it is quite aura draining, so, I would kind of be leaning towards Raven and Jean in this one, but as I said, it could go either way. But overall, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's matches and are enjoying the Phoenix Festival tournament overall. The rounds are winding down, only the strong are remaining, and things are getting extremely interesting. But with that being said, if you guys want to keep up with the Phoenix Festival tournament and the channel as a whole, make sure to subscribe and join the Guild of the Eternal Flame. Tweet me at PhoenixKnight7, and I will see you guys in the next video.